You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hello and welcome to Cancelled, the podcast that looks at silly celebrity crimes and assigns charges and sentences to them so that we can all move on with our lives. I am Jessie Stevens and I'm joined by
Claire Stevens.
And today we're talking about a little-known American sitcom which aired on NBC from 1994 to 2004, lasting 10 seasons. It is named Friends.
Yes, heard of it.
It was a little extravagant, but I got a pretty good deal.
How much?
$1,000.
On a cat? Here we go. Pivot. 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 Pivot.
Oh, what I do is I look a woman up and down and I say, hey, how you doing?
Did you know that wasn't its original name?
Oh my gosh, I love these facts.
Okay.
What was it?
No, 3 seconds. You get to decide. You get to have a little guess.
Okay.
Little
Guesses
game.
would be
1,
like
2.
Joey and Rachel. Like maybe like the names of like characters.
Okay, no, just have another guess because that was such a shit guess.
Was it one word?
2 words.
The Friends.
Okay, nice. No, it was Insomnia Cafe.
That's the single worst name for a show I've ever heard. It's misleading.
It is.
That's not even what the cafe was called.
No, it's called Central Perk.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like a thriller where no one can sleep.
Yeah.
Would watch.
I would watch Insomnia Cafe. It's just not what Friends was.
David Crane and Marta Kaufman began developing Insomnia Cafe in 1993 and pitched it to NBC. If I'm NBC, I'm going, what's the genre? Oh, it's a sitcom. No. I want a thriller or nothing.
Yeah.
And it went through a few name changes. Firstly, 6 of 1. 6 of 1.
Kind of like Party of 5.
Ah,
I don't mind that.
And then Friends Like Us.
It would have worked.
Eventually, it became Friends. Friends Like Us, we have a lot of arguments at work, this place that we work at, where our boss, she wants to put a "the" in front of everything, which is very the Facebook.
Yeah.
So with Cancelled, it'd be like, I think we should call it The Cancelled.
It's like, so that's terrible
sound
and
100
it makes it crap.
years old. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the.
Yeah.
The premise is that 6 friends, Ross, Rachel, Monica, Joey, Chandler and Phoebe, all 20-somethings, live in New York City. Over the course of 10 years, they go through many life lessons, love stories, drama, friendship, and of course comedy. That sounds like a terrible premise. Like, where is the dead body? Where is the local suburban drug dealer? A la Breaking Bad.
It's weird that like,
What are the stakes? Tell me what the stakes are.
sitcoms, you couldn't really have a sitcom now. Oh, I guess it's like The Office. You couldn't have a sitcom because everything we watch needs a dead body.
Yeah.
We'd need like Rachel to be a dead woman and Joey to be a detective
100%.
in order for it to work.
Because I don't know what the conflict... Think about it.
And maybe just thinking about the perfect couple, a choreographed dance at the beginning.
Blue light, red light, we gon' get real wild tonight. Come on.
I've been into that. And in fact, I kind of did one on that couch. But despite my feedback, the final episode of Friends became one of the most watched finales in television history. 52.5 million Americans watched it. Did you hear the part where I said one of the most?
Oh, finales. One
of the most watched. I then became obsessed with
Grey's
what
Anatomy?
beat. Fuck no.
Oh.
We've got to be thinking pre-streaming.
Oh, yeah, I thought Grey's Anatomy was.
ER?
I don't know.
Friends is the 5th most watched finale
Only the
ever.
5th?
I'm going to need you to throw out
Sex and
some
the
ones.
City.
Incorrect. Again, I don't think we were watching that live. Seinfeld, yes, that was number 4. Number 3, The Fugitive. You've never heard. I've never heard of it.
The fuck?
Number 2.
Oh, The Sopranos.
No. Oh. Cheers.
Okay, yeah.
And then number
Frasier.
1. No, number 1 most watched finale of all time. Nearly 106 million Americans watched it.
Nah.
You've watched an episode of this. It's one that you've watched.
Nah.
MASH.
Oh, Nan loved MASH. It was on at tea time.
It was when she had, which is 6 p.m.
Yeah, and it always made me think MASH. Usually she'd have some mashed potato.
She would.
And so I was like, MASH. This show's terrible.
I Googled the population of America at the time that this actually broadcast, because it was 1983. The population of America was 233 million. I repeat, 106 million Americans watched it.
Half of America.
So half of America sat
We're
down
not busy that evening.
and said, I will be watching some MASH.
What a beautiful cultural moment.
I've watched a lot of MASH. Not following. Vietnam War. Apparently the series went for a lot longer than the war. In the final 2 seasons of Friends, we're not cancelling MASH. Nan would roll over in her grave.
Oh, no, MASH can stand.
And she'd say, I think MASH was meant to be funny. I don't know. Anyway, the cast were paid $1 million each per episode.
And how many episodes were there final season, do you reckon?
I think there were 8. I think there was normally 16 and they cut it in half.
Damn.
It's credited as being the first real ensemble show. They all fought for there not to be a main character. They wanted it to be
And didn't
equal.
they negotiate together?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did. Unionised. They went full Hamilton and they said we'll be paid together. But Claire, Friends aired in the 90s. And if there's one thing we know about the 90s,
It's as problematic as fuck.
is that they were fucked. My structure for today is as follows. Fat Monica.
Ah, I remember.
Chandler, broadly. Weird sex stuff. A deleted episode. A note on the general takedown of Friends. And finally, the laugh track.
Okay.
On the laugh track, I have a bone to pick with the editors of this podcast.
What?
I think we could have a laugh track.
Oh my gosh, we need a laugh
I
track.
think we need a laugh track. Whenever things get awkward, there's a pause.
Okay, we need the lovely person who does the audio editing of this, Leah. I want her to insert a laugh track when she feels that it's needed, and maybe we weren't even making a joke.
So true.
Maybe she just
And you can make
interpreted it.
anything funny with a laugh track.
Yeah.
I got out of bed.
I really want her to do that. It would make the podcast terrible.
Fat Monica.
Dude, don't do that to me.
Oh, no, it's cool. You can stay here. My parents won't mind.
No, it's not that. I just don't want to be stuck here all night with your fat sister.
Hey.
Claire. Monica, played by Courtney Cox, gets a lot of flashback scenes. In particular, there's an episode titled The One That Could Have Been, and it's a 2-parter where Monica never lost weight. In case you didn't notice this while watching, Fat Monica, who appears in flashbacks, is just Courtney Cox in a fat suit. It went full Shallow Hal. The 90s, the early 2000s.
They thought nothing was funnier and or more creative than
A thin person.
cosplaying
Yeah.
as somebody bigger than they were.
There was definitely someone who went around to writers' rooms, and whenever it kind
said,
of, there was a lull,
Have you thought of a fat suit? My
Guys.
work here is done. Walked out.
I want to show you a picture of her, and I want you to tell me if you notice anything looking back. All right? This is a picture of Fat Monica.
Oh, wow. She's not fat.
Yeah, that's what I said.
She's not fat.
That was my note.
She isn't.
She's just, I've written this in my notes, she's simply a woman with breasts.
She is.
She's a woman with breasts and hips.
And they've crimped her hair as if to say, if you're not stick thin, your hair is bad.
Your hair is weird. And she's always holding food. Anyway.
Oh my God. My memory had been totally erased.
Yeah.
This is why we were all so fucked up after the 90s.
I know. Okay, so there's an alternate opening sequence with Fat Monica, and I have it right here for you. And I want to just show you what
By
they
alternate,
did.
do you mean
On the episodes that she was in, it had this as the Friends intro. Just press play.
Okay, so what happens is Fat Monica jumps on the couch and the couch tips over.
It's because she's fat.
Classic.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Classic. That is just
Comedy gold.
the work that must have taken to
I know.
come up with that joke.
Get in your fat suit.
Just so many hours, and then analyzing why it's funny.
Yeah.
But it's not really very funny.
In that episode, one of the complications is that Fat Monica is becoming increasingly concerned that someone sat on her chocolate bar. I believe it was a Kit Kat.
Okay.
Which, by the way, genuinely distressing.
It doesn't matter your size.
It doesn't matter your size.
If somebody sat on my Kit Kat.
That would be enough of complication in my story, in my day. If someone sat on my chocolate bar, I would be wondering if their body heat made it melt. If it became that chocolate where it's like it's not even chocolate anymore, it's just like stuck to the sides and it's no longer the texture that I need it to be.
The other day, my husband and I, we went to Subway and naturally we got several cookies. Obviously, some of the cookies were mine, some of the cookies were his. I was wrangling our baby and while I was doing that, I witnessed him start to eat one of my cookies. And I...
Was it by mistake?
No.
Okay.
He was being sneaky. I snapped.
Hey, where cookies go?
And there's nothing more
shameful than when you snap. Yeah.
than
About
snapping about somebody eating your treat.
Yeah.
But I was so upset. Like, don't ruin that for me.
Luca
That's
has
my
watched me
rainbow
get
cookie.
almost, I've been sitting on the couch and he's said, he's almost gone over to get like some of my brownie or whatever. And it's like I have a really violent instinct to like slap his hand away. And then I go, I'm really sorry. I don't know what came over me.
Well, it's like, don't fucking touch it.
Don't take my food. Anyway, Fat Monica is characterised as a previous version of Monica who exclusively ate sloppily, wiping chocolate from her face or licking powdered sugar from her fingers. Again, these are two things that are critical if you don't want to waste chocolate or cinnamon, for example.
No judgment.
So in the alternate plotline where Monica didn't lose weight, she also remains a virgin. Probably because it's Courtney Cox in a fat suit and suitors couldn't find her vagina hole.
Yeah.
People probably wanted to have sex with her.
Yeah.
But they were like, where's the zip?
Yeah.
Where's the zip, mate?
And she's like, I don't know, but I'm wearing an entire suit simply to give
so
the
hot.
impression that I have breasts.
Kelsey Miller, writing an op-ed for Vox, said, Fat Monica isn't even a person. She's not Monica Fat. She's a cartoon character with a weird, screamy voice and a totally different personality.
Yes.
If you can call an affinity for mayonnaise and Kit Kat a personality. I hope you can, because that's mine.
Yeah.
Her entire life is eating and pining and occasionally dancing to disco music with donuts in her hands for no reason. She's a clown. There's a scene where she can't get up off a beanbag, allegedly due to her weight, and respectfully, show me a person who can get up off a beanbag.
Yeah, no, it's really tricky.
There's also a memorable line from Joey when they're watching a video of Monica in her prom dress eating a sandwich. And he yells,
Some girl ate Monica.
Shut up. The camera adds 10 pounds.
So how many cameras are actually on you?
Have you ever heard of anything more 90s?
No. I wonder if anybody at the time noticed or if it was so insidious, our fat phobia, that everybody just took it
Or
for
they
granted.
saw it and they had like a moment of inspiration where they went, you know what we should make is a film named Shallow Hal. And I think Jack Black should be in it. And I'm thinking Gwyneth Paltrow in a fat suit. I'm feeling it. But then the whole premise of Shallow Hal is, of course, that he sees her as thin, but joke's on him, she's fat. And can you love someone when they're fat?
A man, yes, because Jack Black.
Yeah. Chandler. A reappraisal of Friends 30 years on has a lot of people saying fuck Chandler.
Okay, but Matthew Perry, R.I.P.
I should state on the record, Matthew Perry and Chandler are not the same person.
No.
Matthew Perry famously said he didn't recall shooting like 3 seasons.
Yeah.
There was an article published in Slate titled, Chandler Bing is the worst thing about watching Friends in 2015. The writer, Ruth Graham, argues that he is endlessly paranoid about being perceived as gay. I went back and watched a whole lot of scenes and I was like, very astute observation. This man is homophobic in the sense of like a pathology.
Really?
Like not in the sense of talking about something broadly being homophobic, but he is so anxious about being seen as gay.
So like what? I can't remember any references
there's
to that.
a scene where Joey has a handbag. He walks in with a handbag. Chandler just has like this visceral reaction of like, you're gay. And like he just really doesn't like it. And then he's like, men will like it.
I'm off to my audition. How do I look?
I think you look great. Joey, that bag is going to get you that part.
And a date with a man.
He's worried that people are going to see him as gay as well if he does anything moderately feminine.
Okay.
He's not the most masculine guy in the world, but he's got a real hang up on his sexuality. He is identified in the first season as having a quality of gayness about him, whatever that means. And then he spends 10 seasons suppressing anything mildly feminine about him. I've heard him described as simply embodying gay panic.
Yes.
And that could not be more accurate.
Yes.
He is terrified of gayness.
Yes.
Which I think is also a lot of characters again in the 90s.
It is also interesting that this was a show set in New York in the 90s with very little queer representation. I can think of one example, which we may get to. There was a very big population of gay people in New York.
I know, but it was pre-same-sex marriage. Like, it was a totally different world. And in fact, I don't think I get into this here, but they had a gay wedding. So 2 women marry, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
Ross did a lot of,
yes,
went a long way towards degrading that.
Yes, but 2 states in the US wouldn't broadcast it. Like, they wouldn't put it on television, and they couldn't have them kiss because they were worried they would get so many complaints. Like, that is what the 90s were. Anyway, other things about Chandler. He chooses a roommate because their sister is a porn star. He dates this Janice character who he openly hates.
Oh my God.
I don't think Chandler likes men or women.
No, I remember Janice.
Can you believe this happened?
No. And yet it did. Goodbye, Janice.
Kiss me.
I think that was a little bit of a funny storyline because sometimes people who can't say no
end up with a Janice for the rest of it.
End up surrounded by people that they can't stand.
I think he told Janice that he was moving to Yemen or something. And Janice was convinced. And everyone's like, why would Janice be convinced? And I was like, because Janice is weird. But it's the treatment of his father that has copped the most criticism in a post-Friends world.
I saw this on TikTok recently.
Let's discuss the whole Chandler's dad is a drag queen thing. Mm-hmm. So Chandler's dad is named Charles Bing. And Charles has a drag queen persona named Helena. But Charles is played by Kathleen Turner, who is a woman. So a woman plays a man pretending to be a woman. Do you see?
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of mental gymnastics.
In the episode, the one with Chandler and Monica's wedding, part 1, Chandler's mum asks Charles, don't you have a little too much penis to be wearing a dress like that? If you're wondering how sensitively Friends handled this storyline.
Okay.
The thing is, what's weird is that I repeat, the role was played by Kathleen. And not that this should matter, but she literally didn't have a penis.
That is very, very odd.
It just makes the line very confusing. Yeah. And there's a lot of criticism online being like, misgendered pronouns are wrong. And I'm like,
it's like, wind back, like, yes. But if you wind back, there's actually just more of a logical flaw.
Yeah. Chandler is just ashamed of his dad, who everyone frequently misgenders. Again, I don't know, because it's Kathleen Turner who's meant to be a man. I don't know. And are you a drag queen?
I think
because that's different to identifying as trans.
The problem is the writers are confused.
Yeah.
The writers got a little bit muddied and then the show got made and they were like,
Charles is just the butt of a very elaborate joke. He performs a drag show in Vegas called Viva La Gagas. If you're wondering how three-dimensional and fully formed this character is, I will repeat, Viva La Gagas. It's like Viva La Vegas.
Yes, but they've replaced Vay with gay.
Yeah. Turner, the actor, has said her character didn't age well and she wouldn't do it today.
Oh, good.
On the other hand, Miller, who wrote the book about Friends and the op-ed I talked about earlier, she said that Charles was pretty much the only trans character who was not a murder victim on Law & Order. And it's been argued to even try to include an LGBT character was pretty transgressive in the early 2000s. Even if they performed a show called, Claire, what's it called?
Viva Las Vegas.
No,
whoa.
Viva La Gagas.
Viva La Gagas.
Weird sex stuff. You know how you look back on these shows and they're weirdly sexual despite being positioned as very like PG?
Yeah, and the thing is, we were kids/teenagers when it was airing, and I remember like everyone loved Friends, so I remember kind of locking myself in Nan's granny flat.
Oh, wow.
For pretty much a whole school holidays and watching every episode of Friends and just feeling so cool, but the extent to which all of it went over my head.
You look back at The Simpsons and you're like, you were naughtier than I thought. And it was a bit naughty. There's one episode where Ross comes on to his cousin. His cousin, Cassie, is played by Denise Richards.
I was going to say his cousin's really hot.
And she comes to stay with him and Monica during a visit to New York. And Chandler keeps staring at her and making her feel uncomfortable because Chandler's creepy. So Ross is like, it's okay, I'm safe. And they end up sitting on the couch watching a movie, at which point he leans over and tries to kiss her. Then he can't think of anything to say, so eventually exclaims, I haven't had sex in a very long time.
Oh, I know that book. Forget it. I want it. She wants it. I'm going in.
What the hell are you doing?
Say something clever. I haven't had sex in a very long time.
Can you imagine your cousin making a move? The level of confusion.
There was all this stuff in all the analysis. It was like, well, it was legal in some states.
And
I was like, it's not fine.
There's legal.
It's not fine.
And there's fine. And it's not.
It's not. It is not fine. This is my theory, that when you have to make 236 episodes of a show, things get weird.
You start doing some weird things.
And there's only 6 of them, so it's like, I don't know, he fucks his cousin. I don't know. There's also a storyline where Monica and Ross, who, just to remind you, are siblings, realise they hooked up.
Okay. This was also a big theme in the 90s. Remember our Seventh Heaven episode? We talked about, I think it's one of the first scenes where it's Mary and Matt are practicing kissing
on each other.
And the Reverend comes out and he's like, guys, and they're like really embarrassed.
Okay, so I close my eyes and...
Oh, Dad, this isn't what it looks like. It's a relief?
But it seems like the Reverend has more of an issue with it being kissing rather than the fact that these are fucking siblings.
Yeah. And so I do think you're right.
It was a theme in the 90s.
Yeah. That it's like, okay.
Was it trying to normalize hooking
incest?
up?
No. I think it was this. Only hot people can be on television / hot charismatic people like Jessica Biel, for example.
Yeah.
But then it's like, whoa. But what if Jessica Biel was your sister? Wouldn't you still want to kiss her? And so that's where it got confused. So that's what happened, I think.
Because Monica's hot, Ross is hot,
Monica,
they hook up.
Yeah. So it's like, guys, they're straight. They look similar. They live in the same city. They've hooked up. No.
And apparently they were drunk and Ross thought it was Rachel and they both freak out, but they hooked up. Speaking of weird, remember when Brad Pitt was a guest star?
Yes. Okay, the question is this. Was he married to Jennifer Aniston?
Yes, he was.
Okay,
yeah,
I thought so.
So he was in the episode called The One with the Rumour, and he plays Will, who's an old high school friend who founded the I Hate Rachel Club with Ross, right? The punchline to that whole episode is that Will started a rumour that Rachel was intersex and her parents had to flip a coin to decide if she was a boy or a girl.
Oh my God. How specific and odd.
The Intersex Society of North America was very offended.
Oh.
And years later, the co-creator, Marta Kaufman, said she regrets the joke and wouldn't do it again today.
Yeah,
she said that a few times.
I think maybe if you went through every line of dialogue with a fine-tooth comb, she'd be saying that every day for the rest of her life.
What's interesting, and this is just plays into my theory, that Brad Pitt, Teflon. If that was anyone else, they'd be going back going, why did you say yes to that character? But it was a different time, but also Brad Pitt apparently can do no wrong.
And he's like, but just look at my face. And everyone's like, true, I was distracted. Like, I didn't really remember what he did in that episode.
I just remember everyone clapping when he was on. Because it's like, you and Jennifer.
It's like, you're so beautiful. You glow.
He's being really discriminatory. Broadly, there's a lot of womanizing. The men are always like, oh, yeah, look at that one. And there's one storyline that I think actually just sums up the whole show. If you want to know the vibe of Friends
without having seen
it, here's a plot point that just touches on every theme. Joey and Chandler take Ross's baby on the bus. Okay? Because Ross has one baby and then he later has another baby with Rachel. Mm-hmm. Ross has a conniption because his baby Ben plays with Barbies, and there's another episode where his daughter Emma is getting a nanny and it's a man. And he has what can only be described as an aneurysm, right? So this is all...
He's like, what kind of man wants to look after a child?
Exactly.
It's like, and this is why.
Anyway, this episode, Joey and Chandler have Ross's baby on the bus. But there are 3 pretty ladies on the bus. Mm-hmm. So they get distracted and leave the baby on the bus.
Amen.
But there's a punchline. You know how it's got to do like the... ba-dum-tsh.
Yeah.
This is important. It's all for nothing because the pretty ladies think that they're gay because they're 2 men with a baby.
Oh.
And what's Chandler's deepest fear?
Being perceived as gay. Oh, wow.
That's it.
Classic. It's like, yeah, you can imagine them in the writer's room being like, okay, Chandler storyline, but how do we... It's like maybe they've got each character and like their fatal flaw and their biggest fear. And for him, it is being perceived as gay.
Yeah. Greatest fear. Deleted.
And then Monica's greatest fear is going back to Fat Monica.
Yeah, because everyone calls her Fat Monica and like reminds her. Deleted episode. There was an episode set to air in October 2001. was all filmed, ready to go.
Oh, interesting timing.
And then in September 2001, a few weeks before, New York experienced the deadliest terrorist attack in US history. And let me explain to you the episode they had ready to go.
I have never heard this story.
Monica and Chandler are newly married. He's married, so he can't be gay.
Yeah.
And they're checking in at the airport. Claire, you're in a writer's room. Chandler needs a funny little one-liner. He needs a complication at the airport. What does Chandler say?
Oh, no. Does he do a terrorist?
He makes a joke about bombs.
Oh, no.
In front of a sign that says no joking about bombs or hijacking.
Hey, look at that. Federal law prohibits any joking regarding aircraft hijacking or bombing. You don't have to worry about me, ma'am. I take my bombs very seriously.
Sir, you want to come with us?
No, wait! Chandler, wait!
They end up being interrogated by security, and just after they leave, Monica accidentally screams something about blowing something up.
Oh, wow.
So it probably wouldn't have worked in
That's
that context.
very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Like, that's bad timing.
Yeah, it is.
But you got to think, the good thing about pumping out so many episodes and so many empty, hollow jokes is that I guess you don't really miss it if one episode gets scrapped.
Well, they didn't scrap it. They changed it. They took this bit out.
Oh,
the whole
so
plot
they
line
didn't kill
about,
the whole episode.
No. They took this out and they were probably like, oh, Chandler needs a funny one-liner. And as he walks through, they find that he's got perfume in his bag and he shouts I'm not gay. That's probably what they did.
Oh, okay.
Because it's just the same.
Yeah, they're like, quick, scramble.
Chandler-
What's his biggest fear? Being perceived as gay.
A note on the takedown of Friends. So last week, Friends turned 30. Every time there's an anniversary, people reappraise the show, they reflect on how it's dated, which is fine. But some of the criticism is weird. I read this whole article about how Friends is the most problematic show ever. And I was like, fine, yes, go on, give me some evidence.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm willing to be convinced.
Oh, absolutely. But the writer is annoyed that they're always at the coffee house because as someone in her 20s, she doesn't really have time to hang out with her friends that much. And she's like, oh, are they really that extroverted? And it's like, you don't have to go to Central Perk.
No, you don't have to go to a coffee house. They're allowed to go to a coffee house. Also, it's a TV show, which is something actually really important to remind people
it's a TV
when you're
show.
talking about movies and TV shows and this is quite profound, it's not real.
It's not real. It's not
real.
a documentary.
No.
You don't have to go to coffee.
Yeah, you don't.
You don't have to go to the cafe with your 6 friends. If you only have, say, 5 friends, that's okay.
That's fine.
Maybe you only have 2 friends. That's okay.
Maybe you don't have any friends. This isn't a statement on you and your friendship group.
Also, going on a break has apparently been misconstrued thanks to Friends. Because in Friends, Ross cheated on Rachel while on a break. And this person writing this article, she's losing it. She's saying people today think that a break means you can get back with someone without consequences. And I have here in my notes, honey, who hurt you?
What happened with you and a break?
She's really upset that it normalised a break in a relationship where Ross could go and cheat and have no consequences.
But wasn't the point of that storyline, all I remember is Ross, the only word that comes to mind is shrieking.
We were on a break! We were on a break! We were on a break!
Yeah.
So wasn't it that he was actually being held accountable for what he did during the break?
Yeah. And this is an issue I have. I'll come to it. The writer goes on. It's like getting a rebound while being able to get back with that person. That is not how the real world works, yet people continue to do this because it's a normal thing as per today's standards.
We're spiraling. Okay. We're not in a good place.
So someone told you that you're on a break.
And they cheated.
And now they have a baby.
Yeah.
And they've been married for a long time and you're upset. And Friends triggered you.
Yeah.
And no one will go get a coffee with you. Not to Central Perk.
The other thing is, I get it. And I do this as well. You look at a TV show and you poke holes in all these things that aren't realistic. And it's like, Jessie, we've written a couple of episodes of television.
Yeah.
There are certain things that need to happen because, as aforementioned, it's a TV show, not real life.
Not real.
And so the idea of the coffee shop is it is simply a cheap set that we can have the characters appear in over and over and over again.
Exactly.
So it's not saying that is how you should live your own life. It is simply part of this TV show, which I will reiterate is not real.
Another criticism is that Joey popularised the term friend zone that was written into an episode of Friends.
You waited too long to make your move, and now you're in the friend zone.
No. I'm not in the zone.
Oh, Ross, you're mayor of the zone.
How is that a problem?
And it's like, yeah, okay, he popularised the term, but that is not why you don't have a boyfriend. Every time she went on these tangents in this article, I just kept thinking, are we still talking about Friends?
It seems as though you grabbed a point from Friends and then got quite upset about something specific to your own
You've
life.
become carried away. A lot of criticism will be like, it was rude when Ross said this, or Ross could be possessive. And it's like, that's just his character.
Yeah, it's his character, and it's also part of the plot. Like, characters are meant to be imperfect and have flaws. That's what drives story.
Yeah. People are like, Joey's quite dumb. And I'm like, yeah, that's his
the,
characterization.
And that's also the joke. And if characters were fully functioning, thriving, quite perfect human beings,
We're
the
not
show
getting
would
10 seasons.
They would be so boring.
I just kept thinking, every time I read these and they just went more and more granular, I kept thinking, you've been watching too much Friends.
You've gone back, you've watched it from the start. And, I mean, I know we probably said it on this show before, but a great term for this is anachronism. And it's the idea that we are looking at the past from the perspective of the present. We are imposing the values of the present on the past, which is something the internet does all the time, and we often do here in the Cancel Courtroom, but at least we are self-aware.
Okay. The laugh track. All right, Claire, have you watched those clips of Friends where they remove the laugh track?
Yes, I believe I have, and it really does point out how flat a lot of the dialogue is.
Okay, I am going to play you some Ross,
Okay.
who has become my hyperfixation.
Just a quick thing. When I watched Friends, potentially until right now, I think I thought there was a studio audience laughing.
I think there was.
So it wasn't a laugh track. Is a laugh track the same as a studio audience
Oh my goodness,
laughing?
I don't know. I thought that it was in front of a studio.
Because it would be nice if we had a studio audience.
I know. Yes, it was filmed in front of a real audience.
Okay, so does that count as a laugh track?
No, I guess not. But definitely there was someone standing at the front with a sign that said laugh.
If you've ever gone and watched a television show be recorded, that's what they do. They really make you laugh like
they tell you when to laugh.
You're on
Here
drugs
we go.
and it's embarrassing.
Is this your son?
Yeah, his name is Ross. What?
Nothing. It's just it's close to Ron. Does he does little Ross like dinosaurs by any chance?
Yeah, they're all he talks about. Why?
How would he like to come with me to the Museum of Natural History after everyone else has left? Just the two of us. He can touch anything he wants. I just heard it how you must have heard it, and that's not good.
Okay.
When you remove the laughter, Ross is a predator. Okay.
It's simply sinister.
It's really sinister. And it made me realise that I needed the laughing because otherwise confused about genre.
Yeah. And especially if it had been called Insomnia
That
Cafe.
was that. Very Insomnia Cafe. That is a man who's not been sleeping.
I think they should remake Friends as Insomnia Cafe, and it is simply Friends without the laugh
So
track.
there's another trend on YouTube that I went really deep in, which is Friends laugh track removed, but over the top they've just got screaming. So every time there's a joke, everyone goes, ah! And it's very Insomnia Cafe. It's fabulous.
Quite scary. Before we do Taj and Sentences, can we just have a short moment to reminisce on like our favourite moments from Friends? Okay, so one storyline I really liked was when Monica and Chandler went on a holiday and they met a couple that became their friends.
I think that holiday, the thing that started it was the interrogation with the bomb joke. I think that's,
Okay, and her hair went really frizzy in the humidity.
Yeah.
And that's relatable.
Yeah,
Honestly,
that is relatable.
That was
yeah.
representation for women whose hair goes frizzy in heat. And they made these couple friends, and when they came back, they were really smug about their couple friends. And all the other friends were like, you stupid friends. And then they got ghosted by the couple friends.
I forgot about that.
I really enjoyed that because I think what it really pointed to was the fact that when you have a friend group and you make new friends, you are mocked.
Yeah, well said. Well
Yeah.
said. I think
And there is a smugness to having couple friends. It makes you feel like a grown-up.
yeah, so and when you've gone on holiday and you do think it's more than it is.
Yeah, and you're like, my life has changed from the relationships I've built, and you get home and you go, we don't have that much in common.
No, in fact, they live elsewhere.
Yeah.
Another criticism that a lot of people offered when it came to friends was that they had housing. Like they had an apartment, which is apparently very privileged. And like I do understand that housing is expensive, but friends without a roof is like a very different.
It's
very Insomnia Cafe.
It's a very different kind of show.
Yeah.
They didn't each have their own apartment.
No.
They were sharing.
Yeah.
Sometimes there were other roommates. Some of them were employed some of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a little bit of dramatic logic to that. And again, it was the 90s, not cost of living prices of now.
Exactly. I think that if you're getting upset because Monica did own an apartment, then again, what we've probably got to do is
take a break. Go for a walk.
Take a break. Turn off friends.
Yeah.
Write to your local member.
Yeah.
Because, housing is too expensive.
Yeah.
Not Monica's fault.
That's a now issue.
That's a now issue. Yeah. Time for charges and sentences. My charge is Ross makes me feel weird is the first thing.
I think a lot, maybe too much, about when he got a spray tan.
Yeah, same. I don't trust him. I think he's very possessive, he's very jealous, and he's quite controlling. But on the other things, as we've acknowledged, Friends is very much a product of its time. It's weirdly obsessed with sexuality. Fat Monica, not ideal. And Ross should never have tried to kiss his cousin.
Absolutely not.
If it were made today, it'd be done differently. My charge concerns the real estate that these 6 patrons have over Central Perk.
Oh, wow. Great point.
They are, and this is a legal word, hogging the couches.
Oh, yes, they are pests.
They never order food. They
all they get is that bloody what do they call it in America?
Like the instant drip coffee, which is worth jack shit.
It's like $1 and it's free refills.
Exactly. I can't even go to a cafe anymore. If we're applying the values of the present to the past, well, I go into a cafe, I have to order, or they tell me to leave with my laptop.
Yeah, they don't, and you get a little bit judged.
You do. You can't just sit there on the same... They're not your couches.
And often they're causing a ruckus.
They are causing a ruckus. They're talking about Chandler is having a gay panic in a public place.
Yes.
And patrons are just trying to go about their business. And they're like, why is he shrieking about people thinking he's gay? Sentence. Just on Central Perk, actually, I was thinking this is a cafe on Central Park. Like, it'd probably be really busy.
It's going to be busy. And there's tourists.
You got to order food.
Yeah.
Sentence. The tension of this show should have always been between these 6 friends and Gunther.
Yeah, Gunther. I remember Gunther.
Now, he's not the owner, but he is the... I can't even call him a barista. No. He's not making lattes.
No. What do you call someone who pours...
Like a waiter.
Instant coffee.
Yeah. They needed to come, get a takeaway coffee and go about your day, okay? Because what you're doing is you're taking up space, you're blocking it for other people, and you're affecting the income of what could be a very flourishing Central Perk cafe.
Yeah. Actually, that cafe would have gone broke from the loitering.
Yeah. So I think it should have been Gunther shooing the 6 friends. Literally, like, get out. Like, standing there with a sign up going, you've overstayed your welcome. Get a takeaway if you're going to get anything. But you can't be sitting here taking up all this space without buying food.
And or stand outside. Go for a bloody walk. Go for a walk through Central Park.
Yeah.
It's
Stop
right
sitting.
there. Yeah. Go back to one of your homes. There's plenty of room.
Here's an idea. Buy a coffee machine. It's instant coffee, mate. I also think there are lines of tension and conflict that we need to pick up.
Oh, that were unresolved.
For example, Ross is a shit dad to Ben. I don't know where Ben went, but he was never introduced to Emma, Ross's second born, which makes me think if there was like a redo, what I would want is cold open. Ben sitting in a therapist's office.
Yes.
Close up of his face. Ben, talk to me. Well, I'll tell you what, Ben's got some daddy issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ben's pissed.
And he starts describing Ross, and the psychologist is like, is your dad in prison? And he's like, no, but he should be.
What else do you think that it could like pick up on?
Well, just because that actor was Cole Sprouse. It was one of the Sprouses, potentially both those little twins. Who then went on to be in other shows.
They're Big Daddy? No.
Correct.
Oh my God.
Yeah, same little kid.
Same kid.
And,
great actors.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like potentially break the fourth wall, like some meta stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like the kid is Cole Sprouse. Like he has become famous.
Okay.
And he was a twin, which just, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, like Ross is like, I didn't know you guys were twins. I thought I had one kid.
I wonder if little Emma was also a twin.
But in terms of where it went for everyone, I think Chandler and Monica didn't last.
No.
I think they went on to have midlife crises that just set them in different directions.
Yeah.
I think Chandler needed to do some soul searching.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree.
And Monica needed therapy about
the whole fat Monica
the shaming,
thing.
Shaming. Ross and Rachel obviously didn't last because that was just toxic and Ross needs to just be on his own forever. I think things were fine for Joey.
Yeah, how about Phoebe?
Oh, I think Phoebe was thriving. I think she just had a happy-go-lucky approach to life.
Mm-hmm.
She was a twin in the show, remember? Oh, I forgot. Yeah. Yeah. Did her twin die?
Yeah, she had quite a sad backstory.
Yeah.
Not a lot of depth to Phoebe.
No. I think it would be very therapized and very into trauma.
Yeah.
Things that were punchlines would now be traumas. Claire,
what's your charge?
So I do have a bit of an issue with us going back, looking at something from 20 years ago and just tearing it apart because of what we know now.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it very difficult to make art if you are thinking, oh, well, it has to stand for all of time and there can't be any contextual clues here because people will tear it apart.
Yeah.
Okay? With that said, I also think it's important to look at something like Friends and acknowledge it almost as a historical artifact.
Yes.
Let's acknowledge
like one of Ross's fossils.
Yes, very that. It can be a sign of how far we have come as a culture.
Yes.
Maybe, sometimes, how far we have not come. I've always thought, I remember saying this in ancient history, and it was so, so clever. I was like, okay, so you know how with fossils, for example, we dig up somewhere and you find fossils.
Yeah.
And I was like, newsflash, why aren't we burying shit?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why aren't I handwriting some notes about the world right now and burying them? And I said that in class, and the teacher, she turned to the class, she said, does anyone have a response for Claire? Because I think she was thinking, this girl has issues. And a very clever girl put her hand up and said, we don't need to do that, we have the internet.
Right.
And I was like, well, the internet can't be buried, and what if it breaks?
Yeah, it's very, very true.
Because what if aliens come?
So what you think, we need a time capsule?
Yeah. So what we need are these historical artifacts that we physically bury in the ground.
Yes.
To be looked at.
After the next ice age, when people look back and they try and understand what humans were, you want the VHS versions.
Yes.
VHS, but then obviously you also need a tape machine.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And a television.
Yeah.
Because the internet's just going to be wiped. It's going to be turned off, and all of this analysis, Kirsty, is going to be gone.
Yeah.
You got to bury that shit.
Yeah.
In the dirt.
And the person who watches it is going to go, wow, everyone was white.
Yeah. Everyone was white. This man was suffering from what can only be termed gay panic.
Yeah.
Ross was a predator, etc. So I think we need to bury Friends, and with it, bury a 1,000-page dissection.
Oh, wow. Of everything wrong with it.
Of everything wrong with it.
Yeah.
So, and that will be such an interesting reflection of 2024 versus the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's like, this is where we are as a culture, is that things are quite scary right now,
Yeah.
From a climate change, global conflict.
Yeah.
Things are pretty awful. So what we choose to do with our time, instead of writing to our local member, is we watch Friends and we get mad that they have housing.
Fictional characters, yeah.
So we need to have a 1,000-page dissertation.
Yeah.
Analysing it, and I just think that will be such an important time capsule for the aliens.
If you had to bury something in your time capsule, what would you bury?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Honestly?
Yeah.
A Coke Zero in a fridge.
I think you're just thirsty.
No, but I just think the aliens would appreciate it. They'd be like, these people knew how to live. What would you bury?
With either a paper straw or like a metal straw.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's like the world's over. Plastic straws abound. You know it tastes better with a plastic straw. I can't access them. I don't use them, but it does.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Cancelled. Claire, do you have a lazy girl story before we go?
Here's my lazy girl story. Dear Claire and Jessie. So, picture this. Love it. Straight into it. No time for pleasantries. I'm leaving the gym this morning. Yes, I know, gym and morning in the same sentence. Who even am I? Suspicious.
Yeah, I'm suspicious.
And I decided to give Mum a ring on my way to work. Very lazy girl move.
Yeah.
Because
you can't be alone with your own thoughts.
No.
Yeah.
Super productive for a self-proclaimed lazy girl, right? Anyway, mid-chat, Mum casually asked if I'm planning to have a shower at work. Of course, I responded with, meh, probably not. Don't work that hard. Not really sweaty. I'll just do a quick wet wipe situation and top up the deodorant. Yep, love. And guess what? Mum was totally on board with this. And then she drops this absolute gem. Apparently, my granny, Jo, had a term for this, and it's called dirty flash.
Oh.
Yep, you heard that right. Dirty flash. I burst out laughing and asked Mum what on earth that meant. She explained that it's when you're technically dirty, but you still look flash. You know, like when you get home after a long day, slap on some nice clothes and head out like you've got it all together. A true lazy girl move.
That feeling of getting home from work and you're physically sticky, your makeup's all in your lines, right? And you get home and you're like, I'm going to go out. Like I'm going to go to dinner. And what I'm going to do is put on more makeup.
I'm going to cake it on. Because you guys, sometimes I look at my face and I go, this needs a wash off.
Yeah, and a redo.
And a skincare moment.
And do you ever look at your makeup and you go, oh, my eyeliner or my mascara has smudged? What I will do is cover it with concealer. Yeah?
Yeah,
I'll
cake on more makeup to fix it.
That is a lazy girl move.
You just put on more.
And that's the thing with sweat. I don't know. I'm not totally convinced sweat's dirty.
No. And you know what? You keep seeing these things about, oh, in the Western world, we shower too much.
Lazy girls love that fact.
It makes us sick.
We share that on Instagram.
How does it make us sick? That's the question. But I'm actually all for that.
I think sweat just reabsorbs.
Yeah, agree.
I think you get wet and then it just kind of goes all back in.
Yeah, I think it's good for the skin.
Me
Keeps
too.
you hydrated.
Me too.
So that is new to the lazy girl vernacular. Dirty flash.
Thanks,
Granny Jo.
Granny Jo, our favourite cancelled listener. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Cancelled. The producer of Cancelled is Kim Braddish, with audio production by Leah Porges, and we'll be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.